Good morning or good afternoon, folks. Welcome. Super excited about our conversation this morning, talking about systematizing your practice so you can have a life. And I do apologize, there may be a lot of background noise this morning because we're getting a new roof put on our home. And of course, they started early this morning. So hopefully we can manage to tolerate the background noise. And if you haven't already done so, you might want to download the workbook that's in the GoToWebinar widget under Handouts. We'll be using that a little later on this morning. If everyone's ready, let us jump in. Grab your tools, as always, your favorite beverage, your headset, pen and paper to take lots of notes in today's session, and both sides of your brain fully engaged to be able to think analytically and creatively, especially the analytical side this morning. As always, we want it to be interactive. We will be using the question box from time to time. So our agenda is to talk about why systems are important. We'll talk about what systems are, why they're important. We'll talk about what to systematize in your practice. And we'll share with you how to systematize the different aspects of your practice as we go through the information. Before we jump in, if you can tell me, when you think about having a systemized practice, in your understanding of what systemized means at this point, before we talk about it in detail, on a scale of 1 to 10, how systematized would you say your practice is today? 2s, 2, 5 to 6, 0, 8. Okay, so we're across the board from 0 to 8. And hopefully we can, at the end, well, you won't have a system done at the end of the webinar, but you will be clear on what we mean by systemization, why it's so important, and whether you're a new practice or you've been in practice for 25 years, this is one of those topics that's really vital to getting your practice to run the way you want it to run and letting you have a life again without having to reinvent the wheel all the time. Without systems, we have chaos. We have just absolute chaos going on in the practice. We don't know how different parts of the practice are able to work. We don't know how to find things. We don't know. We just always seem to be struggling to make everything work smoothly. And we're trying to hold everything together. And you as the doctor, you as the business owner, you're working your buns off trying to make it all work, seeing patients, doing research, doing marketing, managing employees, doing all the things you do, doing billing, dealing with insurance companies, all the things that you have to do to keep everything running. You become the link in the chain that you're trying to hold everything together as you go forward. Also, if you don't have systems in place, you or your team end up reinventing things. Okay, you're reinventing things all the time. Things that you should have figured out before, you end up reinventing them. We'll talk about how to avoid that. And unfortunately, things fall through the cracks because there's so much going on. You're juggling so many things and things start falling through the cracks. Like this silly little GIF kind of shows, this is how most NDs are running their practice. They're spinning a bajillion plates at one time, and it's only a matter of time till something starts to fall through the cracks. And we're, like all of us as business owners, we're trying to do too many things, and if we don't have systems in place, we end up just burning out, quite honestly, because it's only a matter of time until we burn out in that process. But when you have systems in place, when you have what I'm going to be sharing with you today, when you have systems in place, you get to have a life again, and you get to automate and systematize your practice and your business. This is just an example. This is a lady I spoke to a couple of years ago. I was working with. She wasn't an ND, but she was actually an attorney. And I was talking about systems and encouraging her to make systems, and she was getting quite annoyed because she has a busy practice, busy legal practice. And she called me up or emailed me one day and said, "Colin, why are you having me waste my time doing this when I'm not even hiring?" We were developing a hiring system. It was the next system that we were encouraging her to do. She was getting quite irritated with me And she said, why are you wasting my time doing this when I'm not even hiring people right now? And so I kept pushing through and having her develop a system. About 6 weeks later, she sent me an email, something to the tone of, Colm, I owe you a huge apology. Thank you so much for making me develop those systems, because when my assistant left suddenly, I was able to replace her in 2 weeks because we had the system in place. I still meet her from time to time. She was a client about probably 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and she still talks about how the systems were, even though she was a client for about 2 years, the systematizing of her business was what she remembers as being one of the most valuable things she got out of our entire 2-year relationship. And so I really encourage you to pay close attention today and take great notes on what we're talking about. And this is something that's so important whether you're new to being in practice or you've been in practice for 25, 30 years. Systems are where it's at. And with all the benefits of systems, as I'm going to be talking about them in detail, sort of a by the way, okay, by having systems in place in your practice, whether it's this year, whether it's next year, whether it's 20 years from now or 10 years from now, if and when you go to sell your practice, by having systems in place, that's what's going to allow you to get maximum value for your practice. Because right now, all the value in your practice is in your head. And I don't mean that sarcastically. What I mean is, so many times doctors say, you know, I'd love to sell my practice, or I'm thinking about selling my practice, but I don't think I have anything to sell. Because, you know, it's all about me and the relationship that I have with my patients. Well, folks, I have news for you. That is not true. The value in your practice comes from, yes, the relationship you have with your patients, but more so about having a system that somebody else can walk in, buy your practice, and be able to run the practice without having to, the same way as you did, without you having to be there all the time. So whether you have staff that are going to be doing some of the tasks with you or for you, that's one of the huge reasons why we need systems, or whether you just don't want to reinvent the wheel on different aspects of the practice, systems allow you to prevent that. And eventually, if and when you go to sell your practice, it can be worth 2 to 3 times what the profit and loss statement is saying. Because if I go to buy a practice, let's say I'm a doctor and I'm thinking about buying another practice, or I'm a new doctor and I'm going to buy into an existing practice as opposed to starting my own, I'm looking at 2 different practices. One, where the doctor does a great job with the patients, has a really healthy profit and loss statement, and that's what they've done. They've got this 20-year reputation and somebody's going to buy that practice. And they're going to do all the marketing to try to introduce the patients to the new doctor. That's great, and that'll have a healthy enough value based on the goodwill of the practice. Now take an exact same practice, 20-year reputation, great relationship, but this practice has written procedures and written documents and written systems as to how every single aspect of the practice works. Those written systems and procedures can double or triple the value of the practice. So while it may not seem like something that's really important to you now, developing systems is a huge benefit to you both in the short term and in the long term if you decide to sell the practice. And I've helped people do this. I've helped businesses of all different types to get the systems in place to be able to sell. In real world, we had a lady one time, she owned a coffee shop, and she went to sell her practice. And she was very distraught that after 20-something years in her shop, that the business broker only valued the business at something like $60,000 or something. And she worked with me for a year, doing exactly what I'm talking about today and developing written procedures, developing systems for everything. And we got it valued again literally 1 year later, and it was valued at $210,000. Same profit and loss, same profit margins, but because it was now systematized almost like a franchise, it went to almost 4 times the price. And so it's huge value in doing this. One of the big advantages, or one of the big concepts for you to think about, is avoiding what I call traps in your practice. Traps stand for, there's a little saying that I use, TRAPS stand for thinking, researching, analyzing, planning, and strategizing. Thinking, researching, analyzing, planning, and strategizing. And why I use that as an acronym called TRAPS is these tasks, the thinking, researching, analyzing, planning, strategizing, are things that you should only do once on each project that you're going to be working on. I firmly believe that thinking is overrated. What I mean by that is, let's think things through one time and be done with it. Not to rethink it, not to second guess yourself. Think it through one time and turn it into a system and be done with it. And so all of these tasks that I have on the screen, these are things that business owners and doctors spend, they just redo them all the time. They're constantly rethinking different aspects. They're constantly, researching things over and over again. They're analyzing things to the nth degree, replanning, re-strategizing, as opposed to let's think something through, let's research it to make sure it's going to work, let's analyze it to make sure it's going to make sense, let's plan out what we need to do, let's strategize on how we're going to implement it, and then systematize it and be done. TRAPS are, what I mean by TRAPS are things that you're constantly doing, you're revisiting, that maybe you don't need to revisit as often, or you shouldn't be revisiting as often. So let's not get stuck into traps, and systems are the way to get out of that situation. So some examples of powerful systems, because there's so many, every consultant out there talks about systems, but so few people actually describe what they mean by a system. And to me, a system is simply a documented or captured system, step-by-step process that somebody else can follow if you're not there. A process that's written out or recorded or captured in some way that somebody else can follow if you're not there, or if they haven't, even if they've never done it before. So the examples that I think are just powerful systems, if you think about self-checkouts, what they really started becoming popular in the last 5 years. Sorry for the banging, guys. It's my new roof coming on. But self-checkouts are such an amazing idea of a system. If you had, before they had developed this self-checkout system in stores, we didn't know how to check out and manage your own checkout process. But somebody or some team took the time to figure out how could we control, how could we manage, how could we develop a process where the customer could check out themselves without them having to learn a huge deal. And they've developed a phenomenal self-checkout process that lets us now as customers do that part of the puzzle ourselves without having to train us. 2 or 3 little screenshots and we know how to do it. Another one I always think is super impressive is flat pack furniture. Because, if you go to IKEA, you buy your flat pack desk, you know nothing about building furniture, but you open up this box, and inside the box there is instructions, just like the middle graphic on the screen, that steps you through a process that says, take this bolt, take this piece of wood, put that bolt in there, and there's not even any words on them anymore. And you can step through this booklet, and suddenly you're able to make furniture. You're able to put this furniture together, and yeah, sure, there's a couple of spare parts, pieces that we missed, but in a few hours you have a desk that's functional and working and looks the part. And even though you know nothing about building furniture, you're able to take this booklet, you're able to take this system and build your desk. Phenomenal when you think about the thought and the effort that has to go into that. And the third one that I always just think is phenomenal is, obviously McDonald's, junk food and all as it is, they're not one of the most successful companies in the world because of the quality of their product or service. That is not why they're so successful. They're so successful because of their systems. Their systems create consistency with every customer. Whether I walk into McDonald's in Ireland, or I walk into McDonald's here in San Diego, or I walk into McDonald's in Toronto or in China, and I ask for a Big Mac, it's the same thing. It's the consistency of their product is what's made them so successful. And people who go to work at McDonald's, obviously there's a huge turnover in staff. Some people work there a month, students come in, they work there for a month or two during the summer. The turnover in a fast food restaurant is just crazy. So they can't spend a lot of time training these people. So the systems that they have are so brilliant. If you ever get a chance, I know the thoughts of going behind a McDonald's counter might disgust a bunch of naturopathic doctors. If you ever get a chance to see behind the scenes of a fast food restaurant, take the opportunity. Because even the graphic I have there, to me, is just a great example of, on the bottom of the bags, they have a little graphic that tells the employee how to pack the bag. If you have 2 burgers and a fries, it goes this way. If you have 3 burgers and 2 fries, it goes this way. And they have little images and signs and pictures everywhere that they can to make sure there's no thinking to be done. People don't have to rethink, how do I pack this bag for the customer? They typically will have posters showing the straw goes here, the napkins go here, the bag goes there. It's just so amazingly thought through that it's phenomenal. The whole idea behind systemizing the business, again, I'm going to say it again, is to have somebody be able to do a task even if they've never done it before and you're not available to help them. That they can take your systems book and they can say, oh, this is how we do this in this practice. This is how we answer the phone. This is how we greet a patient. This is our bedside manner. This is our philosophy. This is how we behave at networking groups. This is how we market ourselves at health fairs. This is how we manage our website. Every single part of the practice becomes systematized. Now, one of the things I want to warn you, and I meant to put a slide in here and I didn't, but please take a note somewhere on your page. Systemizing your business is not something you're going to do next week. It's an ongoing process. And little by little, you develop systems for each and every part of it. When I was developing my coaching company and consulting company, we're pretty darn systematized. We have systems for everything. But to get to that point probably took 4 to 5 years to systematize everything. And of course, within 4 to 5 years, things change, right? So you end up having to go back to it, revisit it. But it's much easier to update a system than it is to do it from scratch. And so don't wait. Start developing your systems now because it's going to be an ongoing process. What are some areas of your practice that you might want to create systems for? You want to have marketing systems, right? You want to have, how do you attract and retain patients? So you should have systems for that. And even if you're a one-person practice, having systems is going to save you so much time. The complaint I often get is, but Colin, I'm a one-person practice. I'm the only person doing all these things. And my answer is always, well, if you ever want to outsource something or you do intend hiring in the future, having systems is the only way to achieve that without driving yourself crazy. So marketing systems, conversion systems, meaning how do you take a prospective patient and turn them into a paying patient? So your conversion or your selling systems, how do you do that? What do you say? What do you do? What do you show them? What does your discovery session look like? What does your appointment setting look like? What do you say on the phone to get them to come in for that initial office visit? Systematizing all of that, as opposed to just having it in your head. Having a patient care systems. How do you care for the patient? What's your procedure going to be in patient care? Your administrative systems. How do you manage all the behind-the-scenes things? And your financial systems. How are you going to manage the money? So those are just some of the general areas to consider because they're going to break down into sub-areas and it's going to get really detailed. And ideally, what you would have is a huge, big binder, maybe 2 or 3 binders, where you have the printed out systems for every single aspect of the practice. So the great thing about those binders when they're done is that becomes your training material for new people on the team. So I want to give you a framework to be able to approach each and every area of the practice for this. So I call it the SWOT approach. So it's when you think about any particular task in the practice, anything, pick, it doesn't matter what it is, but think through these sort of 5 areas. What are you going to say? What are you going to have to say? What are you going to have to write? What action might you have to take? What tools are you going to need? And what's the timeline on this particular task? So under what you're going to say means these are scripts you're going to want to write out. So saying could be, what phone calls do you need to make? What meetings are you in that you need to say some things? What conversations are you going to have with patients or with other people that are involved in this task? What might you want to write? So are there emails associated with it? Are there contracts? Is there content that needs to be created? What action are you going to take? Meaning, is there something you're going to give people? Is there something you need to get from somebody? Or is there something you need to do? Okay, under action steps. Under tools, we're talking now about tangible tools. So meaning, what things do you need to have? What materials will you need to have? What equipment will you need to have to complete a certain task? And then what is the timeline? Is there a schedule, a frequency, a deadline, a time that you need to be thinking about for that task as to when it's going to happen? So a real simple one could be, what's our system for managing for taking care of the plants in our practice? If that's something you're going to have your front desk person do or someone do, well, there's nothing for them to say. There's really nothing for them to write. What's the action? The action is to water the plants, or maybe it's clean the plants or whatever. What tools are they going to need? Maybe they're going to need a watering can and some water. And what's the timeline? We want to do it every week. So that's just a very simple process. But again, if I've never been to your practice before, it's my first day on the job, I've never been there, and you say to me, Colm, would you do me a favor, will you water the plants? That seems like a very simple instruction for you to give me, but I need to know, and this is going to sound silly, and I am being ridiculous with it a little bit, I need to know where's the water, I need to know is there a watering can, I need to know where the plants are, I need to know how much water to give them, and I need to know how often I need to do this task. Because I don't know that. You can't assume that I know these things. By you thinking it through, and you've already thought this through, and you know, here's the watering can, put this much water, do it this often, then you've already thought it through for me. I don't need to think it through again. And it saves you time and it saves you effort in the process. Here's the process. The process is to list and prioritize, and then list and capture. List and prioritize, and list and capture. So what I mean by that is, you're going to list out the general areas of your practice, which would be that list that I kind of gave. I'm going to go through an example here in a second. But list out the general areas of your practice, and then, so that could be like marketing, patient care, administrative, the general areas of your practice like that. And then list the specific strategies to systematize in each area. So you're going to have your general areas, and then under your general areas, you're going to have specific tasks. Then we're going to prioritize the strategies to systematize. It's saying, what one am I going to do first, second, third? So that's your list and prioritize. And now we're going to go into list and capture. And what we mean by list and capture is, now you're going to list the general steps required in the task. Every task has steps. So what are they? List out the steps. And then you're going to list out the needs or the tools or the scripts that need to happen for that task. And then you capture the detailed step-by-step process for the task. And if you really need to keep coming back to, if I had no idea how to do this, when I'm reading your step-by-step process, would that let me do it without having to contact you? Just because you've done it 1,000 times and become second nature to you, the employee or the outsourced person, or the next time you have to do it, you don't want to have to rethink it. You need to just be able to go to, here's the system, we go boom, 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 here's the steps, and it works. So let's step through an example just to get you in the mode here. List out your general areas. So your general areas could be marketing, conversion selling, patient care, administrative systems, financial systems, as an example. There may be more, but this is, that's a good example. And so we'll take the first one and we'll say marketing. So the example being marketing, so you break your marketing down into what are the different strategies within marketing that you may want to systematize. So under marketing, we have two categories, attracting new patients and patient retention. Under attracting new patients, you may want to have a system for how you do networking. You may want to have a system for how you do speaking engagement, a health fair system for when you're exhibiting at a health fair, health partners, online marketing system, your social media, your website, your blogging, your email, your referral systems, other areas of marketing that are for attracting new patients that you may want to have a system for. Under patient retention, then you list out those categories, or those subcategories, I should say. So you're going to have, for patient retention, you're going to categorize your patients. Remember we talked about the help me, fix me, and coach me type patients. You're going to have your patient emails, your patient calls, appointment reminders, patient appreciation, open house, birthday cards, holiday cards, social media. What are the different things that you're going to have in your patient retention system that you're going to want to have detailed systems for? So that, you do the same in each area. If you go into that's the marketing, you would do the same thing in administration, you would do the same thing for your front desk person, you would do the same thing for your finance, same thing for your patient care, all these different areas, break it into the subcategories. And then, so you take the first one on your list, and we think, okay, I'm just going to use the very first one that was in my marketing list. Let's go back a slide here just for a second. So here's my attract new patients. The first one on the list is develop a networking system. How do we network? So if you had a new doctor come on board, or you had a person come in that was going, you wanted to outsource something to them, or you were going to hire someone to do some of these tasks. So we'll take the networking system as the example. So under networking system, using the SWOT system, you're going to step through the details of what's going to happen in each of these procedures. So for example, in networking, well, the first thing you've got to do is you've got to find a networking group. So you're going to outline what are your criteria to find them and how are we going to find a networking group. How to get invited. You're going to have a phone script for calling the president of the networking group to get yourself invited. If I've never been to a networking group, I may not know that I should bring something, so what do you need to bring to your first meeting? What are you going to say at that first meeting as a guest? You need a script for that. How to evaluate the group. Once you go as a guest, how are you going to evaluate the group? You're looking at the group and you're wondering, is this a good group for you or not? Joining your networking group, how to join. What to say at your first meeting as a member. Having 6 to 8 rotating commercials with scripts. Special offers for your networking group, when to offer them, what to say, how to present them. Your 10-minute presentation, because every time you're in a networking group you get the opportunity to speak. How to manage one-on-one meetings with people who are in the group who want to have one-on-one meetings with you. How to evaluate the results and how to leave with style when you're done with the group. How to leave with style so you don't burn bridges. By doing that, when you think all this through, let's imagine you bring on a second doctor into your practice, or you have somebody already who's going to also go out in a networking group. I believe everybody in your team should be in a network because it helps spread the word about your practice and bring more people in. If they've never been to a networking group, you don't want to have to hold their hand and explain to them every single step of the process. But if you have a written document, typically the networking script, the networking process, that'll be about a 12 to 15 page process. That literally, when they open up page 1 and you say, join a networking group, here's our process, and you have it all detailed, I don't have to know anything about networking. I just have to read through your process, and it tells me where to call, what websites to go to, how to get invited, what to do, what to say, what to bring. And when you arm people with these kinds of tools, it builds their confidence because they don't have to think it through again. You've done the thinking for them, and it creates consistency in how people network representing your practice. And it becomes so powerful. Okay, so that's just an example of the network. And then you're going to have literally, like, those of you who've been through the networking training, in there we have your what to say in your first visit. We have sample networking commercials already done for you. What to say in your second visit, what to do, how to approach each and every step of the puzzle. And that's how you want every single part of your practice to be, because that's what's going to make it so easy to duplicate, whether you're doing it again, whether somebody else is doing it for the first time, or you're outsourcing it. And remember, if and when you go to sell your practice, it can double or triple the value of the practice. Now, I know for some of you, the thoughts of sitting down and writing out each and every one of these steps sounds horrifically tedious. And guess what? You're right. It is horrifically tedious. But a couple of tips in it. Please do take some notes. A couple of ways to get this done. Well, if you don't like writing, if you're not somebody who likes to write, let's use technology to be able to get more of this done in your practice. Get your cell phone out. Get yourself a selfie stick if you need one, or set up your phone somewhere on your desk as you're doing something, and just videotape yourself doing it. Videotape yourself doing it one time, and then give that videotape to an assistant, or to a virtual assistant, or to when your front desk person, whether it's a he or a she, is not busy. Let them take that video and have them transcribe what's going on in the video, what you're actually doing, what you're saying, and have them write out the system. And all you need to do is have your video camera going on your phone and do the procedure, and then let them document it. Phenomenal way to get them done. In some cases, depending on the task, the video may be all you need. The video may be the process is in the video, and that becomes part of the system. Or take pictures, like Natalie was saying, taking pictures of tasks and procedures as you're going along, so people can recognize them as they're stepping through the steps of whatever's happening in that process. So you can have somebody, obviously you can write it out yourself, you could videotape it, you could videotape it and have somebody else write it out, and then also use a lot of graphics and pictures to be able to document processes. It'll become so phenomenal. It is a tedious process, which is why I say this is not something you're going to do next week. This is something you're going to be doing a little bit of every week for the next while. So in a minute here, we're going to go into a quick 5-minute workshop. If you haven't already, go ahead and download the workbook. It'll be helpful. But you can, if you haven't downloaded the workbook, you can still do this with a yellow pad. So what I'd like to do is, let's take 5 minutes right now, and if you have the workbook, step through the systems. All I want you to do, I don't want you to create your entire list. What I want you to, let me actually pull up so if you have this workbook, I just want you to work on pages 1 and 2. And what we have are just a list of potential things that you may want to systematize in your business. Because like I said, one of my goals this year is to give you less homework and more done work during our conversations. And so this is my first little piece of this, is take 5 minutes right now, grab this workbook, and just put a checkbox on the areas that you want to create systems for. So under marketing, attract new pay, and again, these are just ideas. You could have a bajillion more, or some of these may not apply to you, or it may give you an idea of something that you hadn't thought of creating, but you want to create. So for example, marketing, attracting new patients. Do you want a system for networking, for speaking? So go ahead and start checking boxes as we're going through this. Health fairs, emails, website blogging, social media, health partners, referral system, open house, print ads, newsletter, brochure, all the different aspects of things that you want to have a system for. And when I say something like brochures, I don't mean you're going to sit down and design the brochure, but what I do mean is, what's your process for managing how many brochures you have? Where do you order brochures? Who's your graphic designer? Have all of that information in there, so the next time you need to order brochures, you don't have to go scrambling to look for them. So we've sample lists there for attracting new patients, patient conversion, the sales process, what are we going to say on the phone, appointment setting, discovery sessions, no-show, first office consultations, etc. Patient care. What are the things you want to systematize in your practice around patient care? Patient retention. The second page, then we have admin, HR, and finance. I just bunched all those together. I mean, if you have a bigger team, you may want to separate your HR department, develop the individual lists for that. And then I put in some pieces for the front desk. phone system, how do you use it, phone answering, appointment setting, appointment reminders, rescheduling, call management, patient payments, data entry, CRM database, inventory management, office supplies, office image, refreshments, plant care. So all I want you to do in these few minutes is to check the boxes of the areas that you say you want to implement. And when you have all those boxes checked, what I'd like you to do, we're not going to list the whole thing up, but in terms of prioritizing, I would like just, again, for that feeling of we got something accomplished during our conversation, in each of these areas, under marketing, put down your first task. What's the first one you want to do in marketing? And who is going to do it? Is it going to be you, or is it going to be somebody on your team who's going to create the system? Come down then to patient conversion or your sales process. What's the first task you want to do in that? Who's going to do it? Come down then to patient care. What's the first task you want to prioritize in that? You want to systemize in that, and put the person's name in. Who's going to do it? Patient retention, what's your first one? And admin, HR, and finance, what's your first one? And front desk, what's your first one? So let's go ahead and take another 4 minutes, and I'll go quiet and let you guys fill that out. And when I come back to you in 4 minutes, I'm going to be asking you to share some of your first ones. So did we get it done? If you will, share with me anyone, whether it's in marketing in any area, share with me what's the first task that you want to systemize in any area. Under marketing, blogging and social media. Cool. Marketing, website and social. Cool. My interviewing procedure because I am hiring next. Okay? Good. So was that helpful, folks? Was that good to take a few minutes and actually get some pieces of it done right here during our webinar? Good. I'm just going to be working on incorporating more little pieces like that. So at the end of each webinar, we have something done as opposed, I'm calling it done work as opposed to homework. Yes, there's more work for you to do. There always is, right? But at least we have a start on it to get you in the mindset, and cool. I'm excited about doing more and more pieces like that. So to kind of summarize, you want to systemize your systems. There's no such word as systemize, but I use it all the time. The proper word, of course, is systematize. You list your systems, schedule the time to get it done, create one goal would be to create one new system weekly, and understand that it's never finished, right? It's something that you're constantly, it's a little thing you're working on all the time in the background, creating and updating systems, and you stick to it, and it makes your business work better. And then obviously you train your staff and your team and yourself on the system. But the beauty of it is that the next time you come across having to do that particular task, you know how to do it, you have a process, and it creates consistency in the practice. So as we wrap this one up, folks, real quick, what's been most valuable to you from what we've talked about today, from our conversation on systems? What's been most valuable to you from what we talked about? Love the framework to work from, the list of categories and things that we can create systems for. The workbook is very well done. Cool, thank you. Excellent, folks. Real quick as we wrap this up, based on what we talked about, what one action are you going to take in the next 7 days based on systematizing your practice? Going to complete my prioritized list of systems and get one done in the next 7 days. Excellent. I'm working on refining my referral program. Want to systemize that. Good. My blogs and social media. Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much, folks. Hopefully that was a good session for you. I really enjoyed it. I think the whole process of developing systems and sticking to them and training your team on them is going to make such a huge difference in your practice. So if you have questions on it or you're stuck in anything, by all means, send me an email. But unless you have any other comments or questions today, that is going to be a wrap in today's training. One last time, I do apologize for the banging, if you could hear it, from the roofers on our house. Thank you, folks. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Be healthy, be profitable, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.